My wife told me to skip Thanksgiving so she could shop Black Friday alone, so I followed her. What I saw ended our marriage instantly. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and for the past 8 years, Thanksgiving has been our sacred tradition. Every year, without fail, Carly and I would host dinner at our place. Roasted turkey, my mom's sweet potato casserole recipe, her dad falling asleep in the recliner by 7 p.m. It was loud, messy, warm. It felt like us. That one day a year where everyone slowed down and remembered how lucky we were just to be alive and together. So when Carly told me she wanted to skip Thanksgiving this year to hit Black Friday early, I honestly thought she was joking. But she wasn't. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "It's just one holiday, babe. We need a new TV, and I've had my eye on those doorbuster deals for weeks." I laughed nervously, trying to read between the lines. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't playful. Her brow was tight, her eyes already darting toward her phone like she had somewhere more important to be. "Can't we go shopping after dinner?" I asked gently. She sighed, annoyed. "The good stuff will be gone by then." It felt so transactional. Like the meaning of the holiday, the memories we'd built didn't matter anymore. But I didn't want to push. She'd been irritable for weeks, walking around with a tension I couldn't name, snapping at small things. Maybe this was her way of blowing off steam, so I told everyone I was under the weather. Carly didn't fight me on it. She left before dawn, no hugs, no warm goodbye, just the front door clicking shut behind her. And that silence, on the one day meant for family, it told me everything I wasn't ready to hear. She was gone before the sun even thought about rising. I heard the soft shuffle of her sneakers on the tile, the zip of her jacket, and then the front door eased shut like she didn't want to wake me. But I was already awake. Had been for a while, actually. Just lying there, staring at the ceiling, pretending not to notice the quiet unraveling of my marriage in real time. Carly didn't say goodbye. Didn't kiss me on the forehead like she used to. No, "I'll bring you something back," or even a whisper of guilt. Just silence, followed by the faint rumble of her car pulling out of the driveway. I laid there for a while, wondering if I was overreacting. Maybe she was just excited about a sale. Maybe I was being too sentimental about a holiday that, to her, never held the same weight it did for me. But even as I tried to convince myself of that, a voice in my gut was already screaming. At around noon, I got up and checked our bank account. Just curious. That's when I saw it. A $154 charge at a restaurant in the next town over, on Thanksgiving Day. Not Starbucks, not gas, not a department store. A restaurant! I blinked at the screen, refreshed it twice, hoping it was a mistake. She said she was going to shop. Why would she be sitting down for a meal, alone, on the most family-centered holiday of the year? I texted her, "Hey, everything good? Let me know if you're heading home soon." No response. Not after 10 minutes. Not after an hour, and that pit in my stomach? It stopped whispering and started screaming. I stared at my phone screen like it owed me answers. Still no reply. It wasn't like Carly to ignore texts, especially when she was out. She was always the type to check in, even if it was just to say "heading to Target now" or "lines are crazy." But now, total silence. Not even the little red receipt that used to show up. It was like I didn't exist. I walked into the kitchen trying to distract myself, but everything in there screamed Thanksgiving. The fridge still had the turkey we were supposed to make together, the pie crust she insisted we buy early, the gravy boat her mom gave us as a housewarming gift. All untouched, all waiting for a day that never came. I felt stupid, like I'd been benched from my own life without notice. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about Black Friday or a good deal on a TV. Something deeper was happening. Carly had been off for weeks, maybe months, and I kept brushing it off as stress, hormones, burnout. You know, the usual lies we tell ourselves when the person we love starts drifting away. She used to sing in the shower, crack jokes in the grocery store, jump on my back when I was cooking breakfast just to make me laugh. Lately? Just long silences. Quick goodnights, phone glued to her hand, her screen lighting up with notifications she'd always tilt away from me, and now she was sitting in a restaurant on Thanksgiving Day while I was home alone, lying to our families, pretending everything was fine. I checked her location sharing. Turned out she'd disabled it last week. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about shopping. This was about secrets. I sat on the edge of our couch, staring at the wall like it might offer clarity. The silence in the house was unbearable. No clattering dishes, no football game in the background, no scent of roasting anything. Just this hollow echo of a holiday that never started. That's when I picked up the phone and called Carly's sister, Rachel. She answered on the second ring, upbeat as ever. "Hey, happy Thanksgiving. I thought you guys were going out of town this year." "Out of town?" I froze. "What? Carly told you we were leaving?" There was a pause. "Yeah, like a week ago. She said you guys were doing a cabin trip or something. I asked if we could swing by for pie and she said you two needed quiet this year." My throat tightened. I wanted to say something. Anything. But all I could manage was a strained, "Plans changed. Rachel didn't push. She just said she hoped everything was okay and reminded me there was a plate waiting for me if I wanted it." I thanked her and hung up. My mind was spinning. Why would Carly tell her own sister we were leaving town when we weren't? What kind of lie was that, and why go to the trouble? Suddenly, I started connecting dots I didn't want to connect. Her new gym schedule. Her phone always upside down. Her sudden concern with how she looked. The gym bag that never had actual workout clothes in it when I picked it up once by mistake. I opened my browser and typed in, "How to tell if your spouse is cheating." Every sign was on that list, every single one. And the worst part? I wasn't even shocked anymore. Just numb. I told myself I wasn't going to spiral. But spiraling is exactly what I did. I remembered Carly's old iPad was still synced to her iCloud. She barely used it anymore. It just sat in the junk drawer under a pile of extension cords and expired coupons. I dug it out like a man possessed, charged it for 10 minutes, and powered it on. Fingers trembling, I opened Find My. My heart nearly stopped. She wasn't at the mall. Not at Target. Not at Best Buy. Not at any store. She was at an Airbnb 2 towns over, one of those cute rustic cabins with a fire pit and wraparound porch. The kind of place you book for an anniversary or a secret. I sat back in the chair, iPad still glowing in my hands. I don't know how long I stared at that blinking green dot. Could have been 5 minutes. Could have been 50. Time got slippery. My pulse was in my ears. My palms were slick. I knew what this meant. I knew. But there's something about actually seeing the lie pinned to a map that makes it hit different. I felt my throat tighten and my jaw clench like my body was trying to hold in a scream. I could have ignored it. Pretended I never looked. Pretended she'd walk in later with a Target bag and some fake story, and I'd play dumb for the sake of our fragile, cracking peace. But I didn't. I grabbed my keys. I didn't even change out of my sweats. I drove with my knuckles white on the wheel, my mind racing faster than the speed limit. The whole way there, I kept hoping for a different kind of truth. Maybe it was a surprise weekend getaway. Maybe she was planning something for us. But hope is a hell of a liar. And by the time I turned onto that gravel road, mine was already dead. The cabin sat back from the road, framed by pines and the soft glow of string lights on the porch. If I didn't know better, I might have thought it looked romantic, cozy, inviting. But the car in the driveway shattered that illusion. Carly's SUV was parked closest to the door. Right next to it, a sleek black BMW with tinted windows and out-of-state plates. I didn't recognize it, but I knew exactly what it meant. My heart dropped straight through the floor of my chest. I parked down the street, far enough that they wouldn't see me. I sat there for a while, engine off, silence pressing in from all sides. There's a kind of pain that's quiet. Not explosive, not dramatic, just this low, constant pressure behind your ribs, like your body knows something your heart isn't ready to admit. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just watched in curtains drawn. No lights on except a dim flicker through the window, maybe from a fireplace or a lamp. I imagined them in there laughing, maybe curled up with wine in a blanket. The thought made my stomach twist. She'd told me she needed this day to shop, to save money, to get ahead on holiday gifts, and here she was, spending it with someone else in a rented fantasy while I sat alone, surrounded by silence and lies. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera, snapped a photo of the cabin, of the cars, of the Airbnb listing I found online that matched the address. I didn't even know what I'd do with them, but I needed proof. Not for the world, for me. Because when someone you love lies to your face, sometimes the only thing that keeps you sane is the receipt. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sun to start dipping below the trees, painting everything in gold and gray. I was about to leave, about to turn the key and drive home and pretend I never saw anything, when the cabin door opened. Carly stepped out. She was laughing. Her hair was pulled up like she always did when she was relaxed, wearing one of those oversized flannels I'd never seen before, sleeves rolled up. She looked carefree, lighter than she had in months. Like this was her real life and I was just the layover, and then he followed her out. At first, I didn't recognize him. But when he turned, when the porch light hit his face, I felt my whole body lock up. It was Bryce, my coworker. The same Bryce who sat 2 desks down from me at the office. The same Bryce who always acted too friendly around Carly at company barbecues. The same Bryce who got divorced last spring and wasn't looking for anything serious. They were laughing like they'd done it 100 times. She reached back and took his hand. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. All those jokes at the office. The way he used to call me lucky in that smirking way. It wasn't just talk. And Carly? She once called him kinda sleazy, said he gave her weird vibes. Was that her way of throwing me off? Or was I just that blind? The worst part wasn't the cheating, it was the comfort. The way they moved like this was routine. Like this had been going on for months, maybe longer. And suddenly, this wasn't just about betrayal, this was about humiliation. Right there, in the cold of that fading afternoon, I realized I wasn't just watching my wife cheat. I was watching my life become a joke. I stayed frozen in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. They didn't even try to hide it. Carly leaned into Bryce's chest like it was the most natural thing in the world. He kissed her forehead. She laughed again. And just like that, I saw it. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't new. This was something built in the shadows. Something lived in it, hit me like a freight train. She had planned this. Thanksgiving wasn't a convenient excuse. It was a strategy. A well-timed lie that gave her the perfect cover story. A reason to disappear without questions. She didn't skip the holiday because she wanted a TV. She skipped it because she wanted him. Every fight we'd had in the past few months suddenly made sense. The way she accused me of being distant when I worked late. The way she snapped when I asked who she was texting. The way she got weirdly defensive when I said I didn't like Bryce's vibe. It wasn't guilt. It was projection. She was pushing me away so she could pull him closer without interference. I thought about the last time we made love. How she seemed distracted. Like her body was there, but the rest of her had already moved on. I thought about the playlist we used to play on road trips, how she deleted it without saying anything. Little things, they all added up, and the truth hit harder than I was ready for. She didn't just betray me emotionally, she erased me in real time, piece by piece, and replaced me with someone else. I pulled out my phone again. I zoomed in. Took more pictures. Her hand in his. His arm around her waist. Proof that this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. I don't remember unbuckling my seatbelt. 1 second I was in the car, trembling with rage and disbelief, and the next, I was walking up the gravel path toward the cabin door like I was sleepwalking. Every part of my brain screamed, "Don't do this. Just leave. Take the proof and walk away." But my body didn't listen. I don't think I've ever felt that kind of hollowed-out fury before. It wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was quiet, focused, cold. The kind of cold that sinks deep into your bones and makes you forget how to feel anything else. I knocked. 3 times. Firm, deliberate. No going back. For a second, nothing. Then I heard footsteps. The door opened. Carly stood there, still wearing that borrowed flannel, face flushed from the fireplace and laughter. And then she saw me, and the blood drained from her face like a switch had been flipped. "What are you doing here?" She stammered, eyes darting behind her like she was calculating exits. I didn't say a word. I just held up the iPad, the map still open. Her location still blinking, her mouth parted. It's not what it looks like, but I cut her off. Calm, almost robotic. "Where's the TV, Carly?" She froze. Her eyes blinked fast like she was trying to reboot. "You said you were going shopping," I said. "So, where's the TV?" Nothing, no tears. No apologies. Just a woman caught, scrambling for excuses she hadn't prepared. Behind her, I saw Bryce slip out of the living room and vanish down a hallway like the coward he was, and that's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't heat of the moment. This was deliberate, calculated cold. And the worst part? She didn't even look sorry. I didn't say much after that, just turned and walked back to my car. The weight of her silence followed me the whole way down the gravel path, heavier than any shout or apology could have been. My hands were shaking as I started the engine, and my throat burned from holding back whatever mix of grief and fury was bubbling up. I didn't look back once, but the texts started the moment I pulled onto the highway. Ping, ping, ping. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Can we please talk? I miss us. I don't know what I'm doing. Then came the deflection. You've been so distant lately. I've been feeling invisible in this marriage. You're always working. I felt alone. There it was, the flip, the part where she rewrites the story and paints herself as the neglected one. The victim. Like I hadn't spent the last 8 years doing everything I could to keep our life stitched together. Like I hadn't carried the emotional weight, paid the bills, planned the holidays. Asked her over and over if she was okay when she started pulling away. She needed me to be the bad guy. That way, what she did wouldn't seem so cruel. I pulled over at a gas station, sat there in the cold car and just stared at her last message. I just made a mistake. Can't we work through this? I wanted to scream. Break something. Call her and unload everything I was holding back, but instead I typed just one sentence. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, and then I put my phone down, because some words deserve no reply. The next morning, I woke up to a house still soaked in silence. No footsteps on the stairs. No smell of coffee brewing. Just the ghost of what Thanksgiving used to be. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Carly's untouched seat, and thought about how many lies had sat between us in that very spot. How many quiet betrayals had passed unnoticed over Sunday pancakes and late-night snacks. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I wasn't just mad. I was done. I opened my laptop. I found the Airbnb listing, the address, the time-stamped location history, the photos I took of her and Bryce outside the cabin. I packaged them into a single PDF, attached it to an email, and sent it to her sister, Rachel. Subject line, you deserve to know the truth. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Rachel. Her voice cracked halfway through the call. Please tell me this isn't real, she whispered. I told her I wished I could. By noon, Carly's family knew. Her parents, her cousins, her brother who'd always had my back. One by one, they reached out, not with drama or sides, but with heartbreak. Man, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. We always thought you two were solid. I wasn't trying to humiliate her, but I refused to carry her secret like it was my shame. She made this mess. She invited another man into our life, our holidays, our bed. The least she could do was face what that cost. Carly texted later that afternoon. You didn't have to tell everyone. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I didn't tell everyone. I told the people you lied to. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't the one hiding, she was. Filing the papers felt strangely calm. I thought it would be dramatic. Tears, confrontation, some emotional grand finale. But when I slid those documents across the attorney's desk, it was like setting down a heavy bag I'd been carrying for miles. No yelling. No begging. Just signatures and silence. Carly didn't fight it. She didn't ask for half the house. Didn't demand alimony. She just nodded through her lawyer's questions, eyes glazed, like someone who'd already checked out long before the ink hit the page. Maybe guilt does that to you. Or maybe she was already thinking about what came next, with him. The strangest part was how fast the practical things fell into place. She moved out within a week. Took half the furniture, her plants, her perfume bottles from the bathroom sink. Every trace of her scent faded by the second morning after she left. I thought I'd feel relief. But what I felt was emptiness. Not just of the house, but of the life we built inside it. I'd catch myself setting out 2 plates for dinner, or reaching for my phone to text her about some random thing I saw online. And then I'd remember, she's not my person anymore. She gave that title away. At night, I'd lie awake, replaying moments I didn't want to relive. Her laugh. The way she used to squeeze my hand during road trips. The memory of our first apartment. When we thought love was unbreakable if you just wanted it bad enough. But love isn't enough when respect is gone. And no matter how many times I looked for the why, it all came back to the same answer. She chose to break us, and I had to choose to move on. 3 weeks after she moved out, Carly showed up at my door. It was a Saturday morning. Gray and cold, the kind where everything feels heavier. I was halfway through a cup of coffee when I heard the knock. For a second, I thought maybe it was a delivery, but then I looked through the peephole, and there she was, hair tied back, puffy eyes, holding a box of old letters and photos like props in some nostalgia play. When I opened the door, she gave this small, hesitant smile. "Hey, can we talk?" Her voice cracked just enough to sound human again. Almost made me forget for a second who I was standing in front of. Almost. I stepped aside. She came in, looking around the house like it was a museum of her past life. The silence between us was suffocating. She started with small talk, asked about work, said she missed the dog we used to foster, mentioned that Bryce wasn't who she thought he was. Classic redemption script. Then came the tears. "I messed up," she said. I panicked. I didn't mean to throw everything away, I just needed to feel wanted again. There it was, the performance. I waited for the wave of emotion I thought would hit me. The longing, the pity, the temptation to believe her, but nothing came. Just calm. I told her I forgave her, but not in the way she wanted. "Forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting what you did," I said quietly. "It just means I'm done carrying it." Her eyes widened. Like she couldn't believe the script had changed. She thought she'd walk in, cry a little, and I'd crumble. But she forgot. Once you've seen someone's true face, you can't unsee it. That night, after she left, I sat in my office staring at the glow of my laptop screen. There was so much I'd never said. All the swallowed words, the second guesses, the doubts I kept buried because I didn't want to start another fight. For years, I'd been quiet to keep the peace, without realizing that silence was slowly killing me. So I opened a blank email. No rage, no insults. Just truth. I told her how I'd spent the last few months feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. How I'd watch her sit beside me on the couch, smiling at her phone while I stared at the flickering TV, pretending not to notice the emotional distance between us. How I'd asked her 3 separate times if she was happy, and every time she'd lied to my face and said, "Of course." I told her I knew about the restaurant, the cabin, the lies to her family. How I saw her laughing with Bryce like I never existed. I told her how the drive home that night felt endless, like my chest had caved in and I couldn't breathe right for days after. But I also told her this: I don't hate you anymore, because hate would mean I still cared. And I was done letting her live rent-free in the parts of my mind meant for healing. I ended it simply. "You broke something sacred, but you didn't break me. You made me see what love without respect really looks like. I hope you find what you were looking for, because I already did. Peace." When I hit send, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel relieved, I just felt free, and that was enough. A year later, Thanksgiving felt completely different, but not in the way I expected. My sister invited me over early, saying, "We're not letting you spend another holiday alone." I almost said no. I didn't want to be the guy everyone tiptoed around, the one with the sad backstory. But something in her voice made me agree. So I showed up, pie in hand, smile forced, and braced myself for the awkward sympathy. Except it never came. The moment I walked in, my niece ran up and threw her arms around me, yelling, "Uncle, you're the Turkey King." I couldn't help laughing. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted garlic. My brother-in-law handed me a beer. Someone turned on football, and just like that, the noise filled the spaces that had been empty for so long. Somewhere between dinner and dessert, I caught myself smiling for real. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what was still here. My family, my sanity, my ability to feel something other than anger. Carly used to say Thanksgiving was too predictable. Maybe she was right. But now I think that's the point. Predictability means peace. It means safety. It means knowing the people around you aren't pretending. After dinner, my niece handed me a crayon-drawn card. It was a messy stick figure holding a plate, and above it she'd written, "You're the best turkey ever." It was silly and sweet and innocent, but it hit me harder than any apology Carly could have offered, because this time, gratitude wasn't something I performed for a picture. It was something I felt and I knew. I'd never let anyone steal that from me again. It's funny how the Day that destroyed my marriage now marks the start of my peace. Last Thanksgiving, I was sitting alone in a quiet house wondering what went wrong. This year I woke up early, not out of sadness, but because I wanted to watch the sunrise. I brewed a pot of coffee, opened the windows, and let the cold air roll in. No noise, no tension, no waiting for a lie to unravel. Just stillness. I used to dread silence. Now it feels like freedom. After breakfast, I checked my phone out of habit. Black Friday ads flooded my inbox, the same ones Carly used to obsess over. For a second, I thought about how she'd probably be out there again, chasing deals, filling carts, pretending it meant happiness. And then I realized I didn't care. She taught me something I never expected to learn. You can't buy peace, loyalty, or love. Those things don't go on sale. They're built, earned, and protected by two people who actually show up. This year, I didn't buy anything. Instead, I donated to a local shelter that hosts Thanksgiving dinners for people who don't have a table to go to. Watching their photos online later, seeing strangers sharing food and laughter, it felt like redemption. Carly once said Black Friday was about getting ahead. Maybe, in her own way, she was right. Because I finally did, not financially, not socially, but emotionally. I'm ahead because I stopped chasing someone who was never running toward me. I'm ahead because I can breathe again. And as I stood by the window, sunlight breaking through the cold November air, I whispered a quiet thank you, not to her, but to the pain, because it showed me what freedom really costs, and how beautiful it feels to finally afford it.